Gregory, we talked about that order. I'm going to go backwards here a little bit. I think it'll be easier for me. You said when we were talking about transferring custody and having that hearing in front of the judge, you said that you had to get a court order because of the foster parent bill of rights. We talked about that, correct? Remember that? I mean, that was part of it.
That is one of the requirements of the foster parent bill of rights and the process that we use. If a child is removed from a foster home at a certain juncture, there are only certain ways that we can do that. One is if the child is in danger in the home. One is if the child is returning to their parent, or the other one is if there's a court order. And so that would be the court order that would be moving the child. Does that make that more clear?
Yeah, and I've reviewed that court order about the courts denying the movement to Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't say anything about the foster parent bill of rights. It basically says it's not in the best interest of the child. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you reviewed that order?
Right.
Does that sound correct?
Yes, but that would not have been something that would have come up in that hearing. The foster parent bill of rights would not have been something that would have. That is, the foster parent bill of rights gives the foster parents the appeal right if we try to remove a child.
Okay. Now you talk about the foster parent bill of rights. Are you familiar with the Bill of Rights on the United States Constitution?
Somewhat, yes.
Okay, you know that there's a 14th Amendment that gives parents a constitutional right to parent their children?
Objection.
I've never read it, so.
Okay. Are you
I'm familiar that there are a Bill of Rights, and what's in the 14th, I don't know.
All right. Do you understand that parents have a constitutional right to parent their child?
Yes.
And that the United States Supreme Court has held that you have to show that the parents are a substantial risk of harm to a child for the state to intervene in that?
I think that's what our policies and procedures are based on, yes.
Okay. And do you believe that the foster parent bill of rights supersedes a parent's constitutional right to parent under the United States Constitution?
Objection.
I can't say one way or another.
Okay. All right. Now I want to ask you specifically about some of these questions you were asked by counsel. You were asked basically a question about did his request for transportation have to do anything with the disability? Counsel asked you, and you said no, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Isn't it true that it was determined through the assessment process of Mr. Marble that one of the reasons he did not have a driver's license was because of his seizure history?
That may have been why he didn't have a driver's license, but we offered transportation to him, had nothing to do with whether or not he had a driver's license. We offered transportation because of the distance. If he would have been driving, we would have given him a gas card.
Okay, but isn't it true that his lack of transportation was related to him not having a driver's license?
I can't say that for sure.
And his not having a driver's license, you can say, was partly related to his seizure disability, correct?
I can't say that for sure.
Okay, so you just testified to your counsel, under your counsel's questioning, that you're providing transportation to Mr. Marble had nothing to do with a disability. You just swore to that under oath, and now you're saying you can't say for sure whether or not it was related to his seizure disorder. So do you want to change your answer?
Objection.
No, I don't want to change my answer. We offered him transportation because he needed it. Didn't have anything to do with whether he had a driver's license or a seizure disorder, anything like that. We offered him transportation because he needed it. And we would have done that for anyone.
All right, you also were asked if Mr. Marble had ever asked for any accommodations to be able to meet his requirements or regain custody of his child, and you said no, he did not request accommodations, correct?
Not to me, he didn't know.
Okay, well, you were also asked if you had any knowledge if he requested accommodations to anybody, and you said he had not, right?
That's correct.
But isn't it true that Mr. Marble, as early as December 2013, had acknowledged and requested that DCS place his child with his relatives Bobby Dubois and Will Dubois Jr. because he knew he would have trouble completing the requirements placed on him by DCS?
I don't see how that relates to a disability.
You don't acknowledge that it's an accommodation to a parent who cannot meet the requirements of a PERM plan to ask that his child be placed with relatives so that he can continue to have a parental relationship with his child?
I don't see the relation, no.
Okay. Now, counsel had also asked you if a parent had ever successfully completed a PERM plan and not had a job, right? And you said yes, right?
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
Yes,
So is it safe for me to assume that having a job would not have been part of the PERM plan in that particular case?
Objection.
You can't have it both ways.
Objection.
You can't successfully complete a PERM plan and not meet a requirement, right?
what the court looks at and what we look at is not total compliance, but substantial compliance. We
Okay.
look at what the
Hold on a
risk.
minute.
what
Hold
we-
on. No, hold on, because you're not answering my question, and this is what we talked about early. I don't want to interrupt you, but if you're not responding to my question, I want to make sure that I get an answer to my question, and it's
All right.
getting late in the day. You were asked by counsel if a parent had successfully completed a PERM plan, not substantially complied. Successfully completed a PERM plan. That was the question.
Mhm.
He said, have you known of a parent who has successfully completed a PERM plan and not had a job? And you said yes, correct?
Yes,
So isn't it true that if a parent has successfully completed a PERM plan and not had a job, that a job would not have been part of that PERM plan, right?
we don't put on a PERM plan that someone must have a job. I think I already said that.
Okay. Legal means of income, right?
Right.
All right. So the fact that the counsel just asked you that they can successfully complete a PERM plan and not have a job is really irrelevant because you don't put it on a PERM plan anyway,
Objection.
right?
We do not put on a PERM plan that a parent must have a job.
Okay. So that would be irrelevant to, well, scratch that question. All right. Now, counsel said, do you know of a parent who successfully completed a PERM plan and not had a driver's license? So the same question applies to successfully complete a PERM plan, then the driver's license would not have been a requirement of that PERM plan. Isn't that right?
That's correct. We don't put PERM plans with must have a driver's license.
Okay. Doesn't exist, right?
Right.
Counsel also asked you, do you know of a parent who's ever successfully completed a PERM plan and not had a GED? And you said yes. So again, same question. If you successfully complete the requirements of a PERM plan and don't have a GED, then having a GED is not a requirement of a PERM plan, correct?
That's correct.
And the same thing about independent living. Counsel asked you if you've ever known of a parent who successfully completed a PERM plan and not been living independently, and you said yes. So therefore, that would not have been a requirement of the PERM plan. Isn't that correct?
It would not be a requirement of any PERM plan.
Okay. Now, I also asked you if in any of the PERM plans that Mr. Marble had told you that either his seizure disorder, his depression, his knee injury, or any mental ability would prevent him from completing the PERM plan. Can you show me anywhere in the DCS record where, having received knowledge that Mr. Marble had seizure disorder, depression, a knee injury, or any mental limitations, was assessed by DCS to each particular element and requirement of the PERM plan?
Would you repeat that?
I'll be happy to. Can you indicate to me anywhere in the DCS record or in any PERM plan where DCS, having knowledge of, and I'll take them one at a time,
Okay.
having knowledge of a seizure disorder, sat and did an individual assessment with Mr. Marble and said, Mr. Marble, let's look at your seizure history and talk about specifically how that might affect your ability to complete each and every one of the requirements set forth for you on this perm plan.
As far as his seizure disorder, he told Lindsay, as I recall, that he had been seizure-free for a period of time, and we asked him for documentation from his physician. So that would have been the assessment that we would have done.
Okay, so you did not. You did not take each element of the perm plan that was required on Mr. Marble and say, how would your seizure history affect your ability to complete that, correct?
If the doctor would have said he's still currently having seizures, then we would have addressed that.
All right, so on the depression, when you gained knowledge that Mr. Marble had a history of depression, can you point to me anywhere in the DCS record where DCS did an independent and individualized assessment with Mr. Marble and said, let's look at how your history of depression may affect your ability to complete all of these individual requirements placed on you under the perm plan?
We started with the assessment that Jerry Cross did. And from there, we requested that Mr. Marble go to the person in Michigan that he had been to before, and we would have relied on that person's recommendations as to where we should proceed.
All right, now you'll agree with me that Jerry Cross's assessment was not completed until February 2014. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
The first parenting plan in which Mr. Marble attended, in which several requirements were placed on him, and we've already discussed with Ms. Kenyon, was September 2013. Do you know that to be true?
I'd say that's a reasonable time.
So isn't it true that prior to the assessment of Jerry Cross, multiple requirements were placed upon Mr. Marble for him to complete in the perm plan?
Define multiple.
Well, oh, they're over here. It's over here. All right, this document, which was identified by Ms. Kenyon as the permanency plan dated September the 5th, 2013, she read them into the record. Let's see. All right, for instance, on page 12 of this permanency plan, it says, Matthew will pay bills for food and housing utilities on time and ensure that the basic services do not end. Matthew will provide proof of housing to DCS case manager in the form of rent receipts. I'm going to show you and see if you identify that on page 12 as a requirement placed on Mr. Marble in September 2013.
Yes.
Let's just take that one for instance.
Okay.
So isn't it true that that requirement in that perm plan was placed in that perm plan and ratified by the judge prior to the assessment done on Mr. Cross in February 2014?
The assessment done by Mrs. Cross?
Well, that's who you said did the assessment for DCS.
No, you said on Mr. Cross.
I'm sorry.
It's getting late.
I know it is getting late. Let me
Yes.
try it one more time,
Okay.
okay? I just read that requirement placed on Mr. Marble in the September 5th, 2013 perm plan. Do you now have that in front of you so you can
Yes.
see I can read it correctly?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that that requirement was placed on Mr. Marble prior to the completion of his assessment done by Miss Jerry Cross?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do you get this back?
You can just put it right there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nothing further.
Nothing further, we'll read the sign.